Hey everyone, Chris here with another filler video. I actually had something else planned for today, except the more I worked on it, the more I realized it probably wasn't going to be a really good video to release, just because of the fact that the content was kinda controversial, kinda not relevant. I don't know, it just didn't make sense to release it. So instead, here's a really quick thing I thought of putting together, because I only had like 5 or 6 hours to put a video together. Basically what I'm doing today is a walkthrough of Dangerous Dave in video form. And I'm going to teach you guys exactly how to get through this game without getting yourselves killed, because as any of you who've played this game know, it's kind of easy to get killed. So let's get started here. The first level is actually, well, if you can manage to find a way to die in this first level, I would be extraordinarily impressed. But the general idea is you just grab the trophy and go through the door. So the first level is just a taster to get you started, but the levels progressively get more challenging. The second level introduces the concept of things you really shouldn't go for. That red gem down there is impossible to get without dying, so don't go for it. The score maxes out at 99,999, so there's no reason to go for things that seem impossible, because you will get to that score long before the end of the game, especially if you know where all the secrets are. That was actually an accident, but no, if you die, you go back to the beginning of the level, but the treasure you collected is still collected, so even though I didn't mean to do that, I get to keep that treasure. Now for this level here, it introduces the gun, which means you can shoot stuff. You can only have one bullet in the air at a time, so there's a bit of timing to this one. But when you time it right, the bullet will hit it. The timing is a little tricky to get down, but it's about half. You want to wait about half the length before it shows up again, and then go for it. And we also get the jetpack. Now, you can continue flying over this way, but all you get for it is like one little pearl and death, so don't do it. Now this level is notorious. It actually has a part to it that really kills players, and it's right here. This particular enemy right here is extremely difficult to dodge on the fly, so you have to have its pattern down before you really have a chance of surviving. And the crazy part is, the pattern to its shots, now you're seeing the shots that it's taking, and it looks fairly consistent. The trouble is that it's not always going to be the same pattern. But when the pattern is the same, you're good. So it's just a matter of getting the timing right and making sure to move when you have an opportunity. Now the other thing you have to be careful with this level is that you do get the jetpack, but you will be really low on fuel if you overuse it. And you have to be very careful around the water too, because touching water is death. Now here, going back across the other way, you have to consider that when the screen scrolls, if the enemy's shot is off screen, it'll immediately shoot a new one. So what you want to do is try to go for the bottom there, and just get yourself around like that. Now the enemy's incapable of shooting past certain solid objects here, not to mention he can't get to the very top here. So those are ways to assuredly get around him without getting hurt by him. Now, one important trick to note here is that you can see that there's some purple deadly vines there. So if I try to walk into that room, I'm going to die. But at the same time, there's an item to get. Now, the way the hit detection works in this game, if I jetpack over there without actually adjusting my vertical height, I collected it anyways. So you actually do have some extra range when it comes to collecting things. And as you can see, we just barely had enough jetpack fuel to do all of that. Now this next level here, level 5, is the very first level with a secret level entrance. All you do is jump over the side. So for the first secret level, now this is really important. Whenever you spawn in a level, if you're about to immediately drop, if you push left or right, you're going to fall left or right with no control over your momentum. So if I push right here, I'm going to fall against the fire, which would be a really bad thing. Pushing up or down, however, allows you to drop straight down. This is essential to surviving the initial fall in one of the later levels. This particular secret level also introduces blocks you can fall through. If you take a look at the platforms at the bottom there, you're going to see that some of the purple platforms, specifically on the bottom row, have little dots missing from them. Specifically 4 of them. You can fall through where those dots are. They're actually positioned right in the middle of those platforms. So you gotta be really careful with your jumps when the missing ones are present. It might be a little weird trying to think, how am I supposed to survive this? What you want to do is walk off the edge, keep holding left, and hold up so that you immediately jump. And there you go. Now, funny thing, you could actually go to the secret levels as many times as you want. Obviously, I'm not going to do that because there's more than enough points in the level to not have to, but... Now, in terms of those enemies, getting the gun is the most important thing, because if you die after getting the gun, you will keep the gun. And then you can just more carefully aim your shot. Now, this is kind of an important thing, too. The enemies can be very tricky with their shots, and it's best to sort of time your jump so that you're not jumping into the potential enemy firing at you. You kind of want to make the jump after the shot is in the air. That way you don't risk jumping into anything that they shoot at you. So here's another important thing in terms of jumping. When you're in the midst of your jump, you have total control over your movement, and if you stop pressing left or right, you'll stop moving left or right. I can just fall straight down. But once you pass a certain point, you no longer have that vertical control, or that horizontal control, and you'll end up... See, right now, I can't stop moving left or right. You can change whether you're moving left or right, but you can't actually start going straight down. So knowing that, you can make smarter jumps about where to land yourself. Now, I did get the jetpack, and you don't really need the jetpack that much on this level, so you can burn a lot of jetpack fuel here without any worries. Okay, for the start of level 6, you're going to notice that there's immediately a gun and a jetpack and an enemy right there. All the enemies in this game are capable of shooting, so the very first thing you need to do when you start this level is jump. Just in case he pulls a shot off. Now in that example, he didn't shoot right away, so I had time to line up how to dodge him properly. But in the event that he does shoot right away, you need to be airborne. Now timing these things can be a little tricky in terms of getting a shot off. Just try to time it so that you're landing right after their shot hits the wall, and you should be fine. Well, when you press the right button. I pushed the jetpack button. That's actually something that's a little confusing, is that I only just recently found out that John Romero is actually left-handed. So you see the jetpack and gun controls on the bottom. Jetpack is the alt button and gun is the control button. So for a right-handed player who's using the arrow keys and has his left hand on the left side of the keyboard, control for gun is on the left, and alt for jetpack is on the right. So that's what messed me up right there. Again, you want them to have a shot in the air before you try to go for them. Now you may be thinking at this point, how am I going to get out of here? We got purple death vines right there, and and how am I supposed to like perfectly align myself? You don't have to. The thing is, it's not going to check the collision with that properly unless you're moving left or right. By all logic, I should be hitting the purple vines on the left side there when I jetpack out of here, but watch what happens. Oh, I guess I'm too far. But yeah, it won't actually When you're jetpacking, you can't collide with things in that manner if you're just going straight up or straight down. Okay, level 7, and this start is extremely important. Your first instinct is going to be to go for the gun. Don't. Whatever you do, just go straight down. The reason why will become apparent in the next 2 seconds. You would be dead. The enemy would swing down and nail you. And you have to be on this lower platform too, because it's the only spot where you're not going to get hit by them. So what you got to do is time it so that you grab the gun and get back onto that lower platform. And you want to time it so that your shot hits them when they're falling. If you try to time it for when they're at their lowest, you could get hit by one of their shots. Now with this one here, again, you want to time it so that they're falling or rising. And if they have a shot in the air, you're more safe because they can't shoot a second shot while they already have a shot in the air. Now this one's pretty nasty. Whatever it shoots at you, jump over it, because chances are it'll be directly in your sights. Even though it may not look like it. It may look like it'll completely miss, but it probably won't. Okay, now this next part here can be a little deceptive. There's an enemy right on the other side of that pool of water there. So what you want to try to do is land perfectly on that platform in the middle. And now the next thing you need to do is pull off a shot at the lowest part while jumping upwards. Or just get really lucky like that. Your other option is to just jetpack over that thing. Now here's the... if you don't go to the secret level, here's the first instance of a platform that you can just jump right through, thinking that it's solid, and you go straight into the fire. Needless to say, don't do that. Now the last 3 levels of the game all have the potential for going to secret levels. And in fact, getting to the secret level in this first one here is pretty simple. But you are going to need the jetpack. And try not to move left right away when you drop down there, otherwise you'll hit your head on the fire. Also, try not to jump either, because you'll jump into the water that's at the bottom. And how's that for logic? So this second secret level here is actually freaking loaded with stuff. And while getting all of this treasure is kind of nice, you have to be really careful. So let me just demonstrate some of the things I'm doing here. For escaping this situation here, I'm holding up and right, including once I land, so that I immediately jump off of that platform there and onto here. Now as you can see, there's a ton of those little dots missing. So you want to try to stay on the upper level at first. Now if you do fall down like that, you do have some options here. By holding the up button, you'll constantly attempt to jump. And with the minimal space that's below there, you'll either go up through a hole or you'll fall back down through a hole. And when you fall down through a hole, you should be able to catch yourself onto one of those platforms that are down there. See what I mean? And once you can get to this room, you're just going to start racking up lots of points. Okay, so beating level 8 the proper way. Obviously you're going to need the gun. Obviously you're going to need the jetpack. Getting the jetpack first is easier than getting the gun first. Because the gun has a bit of a jump to it, because there's a gap platform right there. And if you miss the jump back, you can use the jetpack to save yourself. Now there's actually an enemy over here, and it does have the ability to shoot when it's off screen. So the trick is to get it on screen and then just shoot for it, because it's pretty slow moving. And as you can see, I did actually hit the shoot button, but I died so quickly it didn't register it until after I came back to life. The funny thing is, it usually isn't down there. So we went for the top again. Let's go to the see, that time he was at the top. So I just lost 3 lives due to really bad luck. Now fortunately, parts like that, where it's pretty much luck whether you live or die, are pretty rare in this game. In fact, that's one of the few ones that are there. Now, there's not even any really good reason to go over here, just a spare jetpack in case you use up the first one or something. Now for this part here, one thing you can do if you're afraid of going through this with jumps, is just use the jetpack. In fact, you may want to anyways, just to avoid the potential of getting shot by that thing. Now there's another jetpack over here, so no huge loss. So yeah, this level's pretty much a luck box, because those enemies can end up at any point in their routines. They do tend to be at certain spots depending on which one they are in the level, so once you get used to that, you can at least sort of predict where they might be. With the start of this level here, you'll notice it'll drop you right into fire, because you got the empty spots right below you. But you have to be extremely careful here, because there's spots here where if you drop down or something, you're not getting back up. You can't even get that right now. So like, I mean, look at the jump I'm about to make here. The first 2 of them are blank spots. So I have to hit it right here. And yeah, that's an example of how falling down can really mess you up, since you can't stop your motion. So let me get back to where I was, and then we'll continue. Okay, I've made it back to level 9. And as you can see from my score, I pretty much just sped through all the way up to here. So yeah, even when you know what you're doing, it's really easy to make mistakes in this game. Now at this particular section here, you're going to notice right away that all of these platforms have gaps in them. And the thing at the side there is too high to jump over, and you got enemies down there and no gun to shoot with them with. How are you supposed to survive? Well, you kind of don't. Instead, you got to look at the fire. Notice that there's a bit of a gap there. The trick is falling down that gap with a precise enough jump. So what you can do is fall onto this platform here, fall down to here, and then just line yourself up. And incidentally, this is also how we're going to get to the next secret level. Now, this next secret level here is actually pretty short. Yeah, we're already at the end of it pretty much. And yeah, you've probably noticed that all the secret levels are actually extensions of the actual levels. So now let's actually go down the hole and not go to the left. Instead, we're going to go to the right. Now this is tricky, because we need to land sort of perfectly on that middle part there. Because, like, I mean, if we jump forward too much there, we're probably going to land in one of those little holes that are above that water pit over there. And actually, now that we have the trophy, we can go through the door, but we got to get there first. See what I mean? So skipping the holes is actually pretty simple, so long as you have full control over your jumps and you haven't tried to do like a huge jump or anything. And there is actually one more secret to this level. Because this is not a secret level over here. This is more stuff. Now, you may be tempted to go for that gun. That would be a massive mistake. If you grab that gun, you're trapped. You're not getting out of that pit, and you have to quit. You can't even kill yourself, so I highly recommend not grabbing the gun. And there we go. So this is the last level, technically. Because there is one more secret level, and we can get access to it right from the start. Really easy. However, the secret level itself, well, this is a long one. It's probably the hardest secret level in the game. Now, if you want to actually go for that crown, what you need to do Yeah. You just need some pixel accuracy. Now this part here is very annoying, because once you go far enough to the right, the screen's going to scroll and it's going to really screw up your movement. So you want to try to drop down as close to the edge as possible. There we go. These jumps are not as bad as they look. Now, you'll notice that I intentionally had myself hit my head on the ceiling there. That was to avoid going into the water. Now, with a lot of these, one of the important things to keep in mind is that if you just hold to the direction, you'll continue moving in that direction when you fall. So when you're falling off something like this, the instant you fall off, you need to hold the opposite direction, or you're going to slam into the water. Yeah, that one's a bit of a trick. If you try to grab those rings, you're stuck and you're killing yourself. This red diamond, on the other hand, is possible to get, but highly dangerous. I don't recommend going for it. Also, remember when you go down that hole there to hold to the right, otherwise you won't make it across. Fortunately, the rest of the level is pretty easy, albeit very mundane. So now, let's do the last level properly. The last level is actually pretty big in its own right. It has a lot of trickiness to it. But we got a couple lives, we should be okay. So first of all, that diamond up there is death. Don't go for it. Hold right when you come out of there, and you should come down here. It is possible to go for those crowns and stuff right there, but it's very risky and completely not necessary, so... Now you actually need to go down this middle path here first, because this is how you get the gun. And you are going to need that gun. So what you want to do here is if you stand too close to the edge, the hit detection may work against you and you may get hit by these shots. So what you have to do is time it so that the instant the shot hits, you jump down and fire your own shot, then get out of the way. Yeah. Takes a little practice, but it's doable. Now this next part here, what we want to do here is the instant the shot gets past the opening there, we want to jump for the opening, hold right, the moment we stick the landing, fire a shot, and continue moving right, so that we end up in the pit. Ready? Could have done that a little better, but that was good enough. So we've got the jetpack. But we need to go back this way because we need the trophy. Unfortunately, there's not really much you can do about that particular enemy. You're probably going to get killed by it. And actually, you need to go back that way to clear the level, not to get the trophy. Well, we got that enemy out of the way, so we don't have to worry about it later. Now for this one, again, you just want to wait for the shot to hit the wall, jump down and fire a shot. And then jump out of the way because they're going to fire back. And there's the trophy. And yeah, as you can see, you could have just gone over the walls if you really wanted to. In fact, that's probably the safer way back. So using the jetpack to line up your falls is pretty useful. But this level's almost done, and we still got plenty of jetpack power left, so if we get to a part that we're not certain about, that we think it might be dicey, just turn the jetpack on. got that jetpack power and the exit's right there, so might as well use it. And that is the end of the game. Not a perfect 99,999, but that's because I had to restart because I got killed by stupidness. But yeah, that's Dangerous Dave. That's how to get through it. Some of the things you gotta watch out for, some of the tricks you can utilize, and some of the ways you can die to let you know what to expect. This is a game I come back to every once in a while to play, just when I have some time to kill and I just feel like playing a DOS game, so this is actually probably one of the DOS games I play the most, just for the simple fact that I come back to it every few months. Still, because it takes so little time to actually get through, I actually challenge myself in a way where if I don't beat it, I don't get a second chance. Took an exception this time though so I could make this video, and hope you guys enjoyed it, and stay tuned for the next episode of Ancient DOS Games, episode 196, which is coming out on September 3rd, Saturday. And the hint for the episode is, it's a CGA game that actually has the ability to make copies of itself. I know that sounds kind of weird, because why couldn't you just use copy game.exe or something, but no, it has a specific reason for wanting to make copies of itself. So if you think you know which game that is, send your guess to adg@pixelships.com, and stay tuned because, yeah, it's kind of weird that a game would want to do that. By the way, just a quick demonstration. Yeah. I survived. But not really. You'll also notice the high score tables are kind of busted. It's buggy in the sense that anything that's over 99,999, what ends up happening is it's only reading the first 5 digits, but it only displays 99,999. It's weird. Just it's just weird. That's all I gotta say. By the way, here's a neat little trick you can try. The doors in this game are only solid if you have the key, or the trophy, I should say. If you don't have the trophy, you can pass straight through them. So, what you can actually do here is go above the stage. And this is how you would normally access a secret level. Now, in the original Apple II version of this game, this is how one of the secret levels was hidden, was here on level 6 by jetpacking through the door without the trophy. Only problem is, if you try doing this in the DOS version, it kinda doesn't like it. Yeah. And then the game gets pretty badly locked up. So, whoops.